Hello, class. Permit me to present to you this article by Sir Jobers Bersales of the University of San Carlos. He titled it Live sa Beach, Notes on Everyday Life in a Tourist Resort Community, Panglao Island, Bohol. All right, so I'll be presenting to you some guidelines in writing your terminal project, which is an article, a research article on your field work, the field work that you will do at your own barangay for your own convenience. Okay, because this is not a full blown thesis. This is just a terminal project for a course. Ethnography. Ethnography lets us step into other people's worlds. It asks us to listen, observe, and understand the lives of those that we study. This paper by Bersales on Alona Beach, he presents that here, which is in Panglao, Bohol, offers a clear model for how to do just that, how to listen and observe, and understand the lives of people that we study. By walking through his writing, we can learn how to introduce our subjects, how to honor their voices, how to map their setting, and how to draw meaningful conclusions. Note how, at the very start, Bersales introduces us to a real person. He writes, quote, Sinang, a 48-year-old mother of 7, had been selling seashells to tourists for 3 years by the time I arrived to do field work at the beach. Okay, at the beach. Okay, along the beach. We immediately see someone with a name, an age, a family, and a job. This approach reminds us that ethnography is about people's lives. The same is true with his presentation of Joey, right? Next we hear Sinang's own words in Cebuano. Okay? Okay. Quote, usahay mahalinan, usahay walag yun. Quote, I quote, or to translate, sometimes shells are sold, at other times not at all. Quote. Bersales gives us her exact wording, her exact phrasing, and then he translates it. This simple act preserves her voice, right? It also shows respect for her language. In short, in writing our research, in doing our research, we attempt to enter the worldview of the subjects, okay, or of the people we're trying to study. We call this technically as the emic perspective as opposed to the ethic perspective, which is the imposition of the researcher's perspective into the people that we're studying. No, we do not want that. We want the authentic voices of the people in the community that we're trying to study. Okay. Soon after, Bersales explains his role. Okay, his role as the researcher. He writes, quote, here in page 224. He says, I purposefully pried into the lives of the locals and those of the tourists. When I undertook an ethnographic exploration of typical everyday social interactions at this beach resort. Take note how granular and micro level this is, right? His intention is not to present a grand theory of some phenomenon in Panglao. Instead, he just tries to record an account of his experience there of the granular level, at the very granular, the micro level, right? The interactions between the people there at the concretest of concrete, the most concrete level. Now, look at this next section. Before diving deeper, he maps the setting. He tells us, quote, Alona Beach is a strip of white sand that straggles barangays Danao and Tawala in the town of Panglao. Panglao Island lies at the southwestern tip of Bohol. End quote. These two simple sentences give us a clear picture of the place, right? They explain why locals and tourists meet on this narrow stretch of land. Then, later on, in the next section, okay, here, then he lays out his analytic frame, okay, his frame of analysis. He writes, quote, the firms found on Alona can be classified in terms of owner's origin into four types. End quote. This tells us that he sorted his data. It shows the reader exactly how he sees pattern of ownership. So he tries to organize the data that he has um, gathered, right? In wait, sorry. In the middle of the text, we get a vivid moment of observation. We find an example here. Oh, can I present it to you right now? I don't know. There's a problem with this file. He says, oh wait, I think it's okay now. I even saw, he says, one tourist drinking wine called tuba with the locals uphill from Alona. Where was that? Just find the word tuba. What? Here, here. He says, I even saw one, one what? One tourist drinking coconut wine called tuba with the locals uphill from Alona. That's in page 232 to 233. The short line captures life unfolding in real time. It shows the power of participant observation, right? He was really present there in the field, in the site. He really described what he saw, right? I even saw, he said, one tourist drinking coconut wine near Tuba with the locals uphill from Alona. Sometimes also, Bersales uses just a little of statistics. He uses a little key statistic. He notes, for example, um, where was that? He notes here, a large percentage, 60% of the sample firms direct employees originate from the local vicinity, okay, of barangays Danao and Tawala. This number, okay, uses numbers very, very sparingly, but this particular number adds clarity. It summarizes a pattern without drowning us in many figures. It's typical of quantitative research. Okay. Um, he also, in that same paragraph, sets clear boundaries on his work. He says, I investigated the employment structure of the 8 largest firms, unquote. That statement, that simple statement tells us exactly who and what he studied, right? In a very succinct or short form. He has prevented us from overextending his conclusions. In short, he has presented to us, he has presented to us transparently that he's not trying to generalize. He just um, his findings are based on the data set, okay? The 8 largest firms. Then later, we then see how locals take action. Bersales, for example, writes, quote, Nang Isang was in the forefront of these mass meetings. She informed her neighbors of the stands of Pimsa and Pufa. Okay, end quote. So notice how these two sentences highlight local agency, right? The agency of the people living there, the locals. They show that community members organize and resist outside plans, right? Finally, um, he wraps up, okay, at the very end with a sharp summary. Where was that? Here. Economic exchange at Alona has been largely outside the lane. Okay? Local participation has been limited to indirect and menial services. And quote, these clear two-sentence conclusions tie together all the stories, all the data, and all the observations that he has illustrated for us. They leave us with a cohesive takeaway. So, yeah, I think that's enough. You can read the entire paper on your own and make your own observations. But by following the approach of Bersales, introducing people, preserving voices, mapping the place, right? Reflecting on your role as a researcher, explaining analytic frames, capturing real-time observations, using statistics sparingly, defining your scope, spotlighting local action, and ending with a concise summary. You create an ethnography that is both engaging and rigorous. Take note, keep each sentence focused and clear, just like how Bersales writes. If you can um, notice that each sentence is very, very measured, right? And each paragraph really has only just one key idea, right? Before proceeding with another big idea in another paragraph. Your readers will not only understand what you observed, okay, if you follow his approach, but will also understand why it matters. Good luck with your um, research, okay, terminal project, and I look forward to seeing you next meeting.